Oh, hey. What the hell are you doing? What's with the jug of Tide or Gain or whatever? Just want to put my diesel in so people don't know what's in there, so they don't steal it. That literally makes 0 sense. Got any diesel secrets? Only diesel secrets I got are the ones the cops don't want you to know. Subscribe. All right, day 2, back on the 2006 Dodge Ram 2500, 5.9 liter, 24 valve common rail Cummins motor diesel problem. If you guys remember the last video, a real quick synopsis of what's going on. I went to go start this truck a couple of days ago, and as soon as I did, I heard a little ticking sound, didn't think much of it. It was cold, thought, well, we'll just wrap it a little bit. After about 7 or 8 miles, the ticking sound never got worse. It just kind of sounded like a little bit of a miss in the engine. After I turned my tuner up to, all the way to 11, I was just about to get on it. About 5 seconds after I turned it to 11, all of a sudden the ticking got really, really bad into a clack, and it was like a dead cylinder, that typical dead cylinder sound. So I pulled injector number 6 off, pulled the rocker pedestal off, inspected the rockers, inspected the push rod, stuck the push rod down in the tappet, pulled the tappet up and down. Seemed like the tappet was fine. The cam looks like it's fine. Pulled the injector out, put the rockers back on, cranked it over by energizing the starter and watched it, and it seems to be fine. Now, I was under the impression that I needed to get this injector tested. So I called Exergy, started talking to them, and guys, this is a classic example of you gotta ask questions. I've been working on stuff for about 17, 18 years now as a mechanic and diesel mechanic, heavy equipment mechanic, automotive mechanic. Even the guys that have been out here doing it for that long or longer, we all make mistakes. And when I was on the phone with the guy at Exergy, I told him a couple of things that were going on. And he said, you know what, why don't you just take that injector, swap it with a known good injector, like in cylinder number 1, start it back up, see if the problem follows it. And I'm like, oh, shoot. I do that stuff, quite a bit, but my point is always ask questions. Always ask the guys around you, the guys in the shop. If you're having a problem with a particular component, call that company, tell them what's going on, talk to their tech support. They might be able to steer you in the right direction immediately. Also, Google is a very powerful tool for any mechanic. There's kind of a weird concept that comes with men where, especially mechanics, whenever we have a problem, I figure out all the problems on my own. I don't need anybody. I don't need to look up the manual. I don't need to look up blah, blah, blah. And sometimes that works. But to give you an example, if you have a common problem with something like this and you Google search it, and before you ever even see it, well, then you know of all the common problems, and you can test those and check that issue really, really quickly. Or you can go through the entire diagnostic tree that we all create in our heads and see what happens. I particularly like to do all my research beforehand, but right now I'm going to take that injector number 1 out, swap it with injector number 6, readjust the valves, make sure that everything is set right, and then see if the problem follows it. Now, the reason I'm putting it on cylinder number 1, because cylinder number 1 is the easiest injector to get to when you're pulling them out, and if that injector is faulty and I put it on cylinder 1, it'll be really simple for me to take back off. And next part of the video will hopefully be cranking it up and starting. All right, I got injector number 1 out, and before you go swapping injectors, you need to pull the little seal out. Be very careful when you do. Try not to mark it up as much as possible. And the reason you do is because this is just a little brass washer on there, or copper washer. It's gonna work harden once you put it in, and because of the heat cycles. So when you take this out, it's not really gonna seal. Now, it's probably gonna be fine. I know I've done it before, but if you think about it, take these off, heat them up with a torch until they're pretty warm, and then let them cool down naturally. Don't squirt them with water or anything, and then put them back on. That'll soften that copper up and let you reuse it. And to get these off, you can take a razor blade, but be very careful. We're not really you're not putting much pressure this way. We're just barely trying to get it underneath that outer edge. Just work it back and forth a little bit. And slightly pry it up. Go to either side. Until you get just enough room to use a little flat blade screwdriver. That. And then slowly work around the outside. Once you get it there, you can usually grab it by your fingers and spin it back and forth. Right now what we're fighting is the carbon buildup on the tip. Now another word of advice. Anytime you're messing with a fuel injector, you don't want to have it just in your hand in a 3 foot of concrete or a 3 foot drop to concrete, because it'll always fall in the freaking nozzle. Do it over a workbench or something like that, so if you drop it, it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to take these, clean them up with some brake clean and some Scotch-Brite, and then hit them with a torch, let them cool off, clean them up with some Scotch-Brite again, and then we're going to put them right back on. And just slowly heat them up. Well, should be good. Now I put them on this aluminum because the aluminum will draw the heat back out of the copper pretty quick. That way I can go ahead and use them and not have to worry about it. And I'm just going to use this red Scotch-Brite pad to kind of scuff them up, make them look shiny. I'm not sure if you guys can tell or not, but that washer is a little proud on one side. You can tell where it was installed. So that part was facing towards the cylinder, so we're gonna make sure we put that right back on there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and clean the nozzles up a little bit, get some of that carbon off of it. Do not hit these with a wire wheel, you'll regret it. And don't use an abrasive, just use a paper towel and some acetone, or paper towel and some brake clean. I don't know if I can get it to come up on camera or not, but I'm going to try to show you guys. You see those little bitty holes? Kind of seeing a reflection right there. That's where the fuel comes out of these things. That's how small that is. Now when you put these seals back on, they should be kind of tight going on. That way when you stick them upside down like that, the copper doesn't pop off. Also, another word of advice, since we're dealing with 2 injectors right now, you don't want to get them mixed up, so you want to mark the one that's in question. In this case, I marked it with a couple of pink dots. Take your paper towel, clean off your O-rings, re-lube your O-rings with motor oil. You can use Moly coat if you want to, that's fine. It doesn't really matter either way, as long as you lube them up. If you don't lube these, and when you put them in, you'll end up cutting them and rolling them. The Moly coat I'm talking about is this stuff, Moly coat O-ring grease. 55, you can use that. I like this stuff because it stays on the O-ring. And then when you're putting, when you lube these in oil and you put them down in a cylinder, you get a little oil down in the cylinder and put about that much on there. Bump it. I try to do it just a little less. Bump it. Bump it. All right, just leave it right there for a second. So I swapped injectors. I took injector number 6 and put it in number 1, and number 1 put it back on number 6. I also replaced the rocker pedestals and the bridges from 6 to 1 because I'm trying to isolate, see if we have an issue with the lash cap or something, and see if the problem follows it. Now, since I replaced the rockers and I disturbed these and I needed to loosen the jam nuts and the adjusters, we need to adjust them. So there's a trick on straight sixes you can do called the rule of 7, to where whatever your companion cylinder is, once it's in overlap, you can adjust it. Now, I've already adjusted cylinder 1. I got 20 thousandths on our exhaust. I got 10 thousandths on our intake. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to wait until cylinder number 1 is in overlap. Once it's in overlap, then I know number 6 can be adjusted, because number 6 will be on TDC. So I'm going to have the engine bumped over, and what we're going to do is we're going to watch this exhaust valve. This exhaust valve will go down, come back up, and as soon as it comes back up, you'll see this intake valve move down just a little bit, and that means that the intake valve and exhaust valves are both opened at the same time for scavenging. That's how the camshaft is designed on engines to work. And we'll see if, and once we get there, then we know we can adjust number 6. So, you ready? Bump it. So we went past overlap, and bumping the engine over like this is going to be very difficult. You should do this by hand. Something I like to do to cheat, if you're only doing one cylinder, I will just wait until one rocker is pushed down, and then I'll adjust the other rocker. If the exhaust valve's all the way down, then I'll adjust the intake valve, and if the intake valve's down, then I'll adjust the exhaust. Bump it. Bump it. All right, try to bump it just a hair. Again. 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 Okay, so we can't really catch it when it's doing overlap, but you can see how the exhaust valve is going down. As soon as the exhaust valve comes back up, the intake valve goes down, which tells me we're pretty close on cylinder 6. I'm going to go ahead and get back there and adjust cylinder 6 real fast, and probably not film it because I can't figure out how to get the camera back there. Well, I got it all back together, and now for the moment of truth. Now, honestly, I don't feel like I fixed anything at all. The more and more I think about the problem, I don't think it's going to be an injector issue. I shot the temp on the exhaust manifold and had a high temp in number 6. I'm thinking I have a burnt valve or a chunk of the back of the valve missing, or something wrong with one of the exhaust valves on number 6 in the cylinder head. I think that's what that ticking sound was, and then eventually when it popped off, that's a valve sticking, and then the valve finally stuck, and then that rocker bridge came off. I think that's what I ended up hearing was the exhaust valve went down a little, just a hair, got stuck, and then the other rocker went like that, and eventually when it broke loose, it caused that rocker to come off. So swapping the rockers, bridge, rock arm assemblies, lash caps, all that stuff, adjusting it and everything, swapping the injectors out. I'm gonna fire it up and see what we have, and hopefully it fixes it, but something's telling me that I'm gonna have to pull the freaking head off this thing and figure out what's going on. Wish me luck. Well, it's a little smoky from all that old fuel in it, but it fires up and it sounds okay, so I guess I'll take it for a little test drive. I don't hear that same ticking that I heard the other day, which, I don't know. That's a weird, if there's nothing wrong, then it's completely befuddled me. I don't know how that rocker bridge could just pop off. That's why I made the videos on TikTok, Instagram, and the shorts on this channel, was to ask you guys if y'all ever had a rocker bridge just pop off. The rocker adjustment was fine. It was tight when I pulled the valve cover off. There was no issues, nothing broke. The lash caps were all the same. They looked, the distance between when I had the rocker and pushed the lash cap up into the rocker on that ball, I looked at the distance in between that one and the rest of them. That seemed fine. got to be a problem with that valve, which is very concerning. Now, the only thing I can think of is it was very cold that day, and maybe that valve, one of the exhaust valves on number 6, are kind of tight. But who knows? I'm gonna pull the truck outside, drive it down the road, come back, and hopefully it stays together, because I really can't afford, honestly, I just can't afford a cylinder head work right now. If the cylinder head is battling this thing, I'm just gonna have to park it next to the side of the shop and probably wait another couple of months to be able to pull the head off and have the machine work done. The head on this one was installed by Holden Brothers Diesel down in Bernie, Texas. I don't think they did the machine work in-house. I don't think they do machine work in-house. I think Mark had ordered the head from a different company. I don't know what company, but that was back in 2018. And obviously, there ain't no company out there gonna give you a 5-year warranty on a cylinder head. No knock against Holden Brothers Diesel at all, so please don't take it that way. Those guys do amazing work. Every single person I've ever known that's taken them anything has always been happy with their service and their tuning and everything. So it just is what it is. Hopefully it doesn't need a cylinder head on it. Absolutely the only thing that I would probably have done different if I was the one putting the cylinder head on, I don't know why some companies, when they get a brand new engine block and cylinder head, just shoot a coat of high temp paint on it to make it look shiny so it doesn't surface rust. The cylinder head on this one, on the outside of the valve cover where there's no not exposed to oil, is got like a nice little coating of rust on it. It's not gonna hurt a damn thing. It's not gonna hurt any issues at all, any way, shape, or form. It's just one of those little extra steps that I personally like to do, to where when somebody sees it next time, they're like, wow, they did a really good job. I'm gonna go a little test drive and be right back. Well, the truck runs fine. I really don't know what happened. The only thing that I can think of is when I bought this truck from Mark, it sat for a couple of years. I bought it from Mark at the snapped input shaft, and I don't remember it having a rattle. I immediately, the week that I bought it, the day I bought it, or the day I got it back home rather, I took the transmission out, took it all apart, got some components from Sonex, got a valve body from John Elford with Dynamic Transmissions up in, I believe, Oregon or Washington. I had some work done to it, started putting it together, and I got stumped in about the middle of it, and I couldn't find anybody to help me. Well, I eventually found somebody willing to take it as a side project when they had time. So he took the transmission and parts from me, got it together, got it back to me. Then I installed it right around October and started driving it at the end of October, 1st of November. That time that it sat, from what I've read online, these are really bad about valves getting stuck and sticking. But I do remember from the very first day that I started the truck with the new transmission in it, it had this rattle, and I looked it up, and a lot of guys were saying that, well, it's a torque converter rattle, and it rattled quite a bit. But as soon as you put it in drive, the rattle completely went away. So I just assumed it was something in the torque converter, either that's just how it is, or eventually it's going to give up the ghost and I'll figure it out the hard way. Looking back on it, it was probably one of those valves was not returning all the way in the cylinder head, maybe, or maybe just the valve lash was had gotten out of hand on it or something. I don't know. But it seems to be working fine. I stuck my tuner up to number 5 and the 150 horsepower or whatever, the top tune, floored it with the old doggo and held together. Now that rattle is gone. I don't hear that rattle near as much, which tells me there was something going on at that number 6. Maybe it was just way out of adjustment and that's what the whole problem was. But I'll fire it up and let you guys listen to it real quick. So it fires up fine, sounds fine. I need to find my damn dog. Little dude likes to run off as soon as I open that door. No, come here. Yes, good boy. Say hi, Cappers. Good boy. So I don't know what the issue was with it. Don't really care. It works. It fired up. I don't need a $600 injector. Perfectly fine with me. So eventually on that truck, when Mark had it dynoed, they had it dynoed down at Holden Brothers Diesel, and I believe it made something like 518 horsepower to the rear wheels, 550, somewhere between there. I don't exactly remember. I have watched the old videos that Mark put up on his channel, and I don't think they ever actually said what it made to the rear wheels. I do remember Mark telling me that the CP3 pump on it was running out of fuel at their maximum tune, so they suggested a fast fuel system, new CP3 pump, and that should be able to bump it up around 600 horsepower, but I'd like to put a fast fuel system on it, a new CP3, and either a bigger turbo or some twin turbos, because it's got a little bit of smoke to it, and my goal for that truck is to have around 750 horsepower to the rear wheels, and then I think I'm just gonna stop it there. My end goal for that truck is I wanna get an old 61 through 72, whatever that mid to late 60s Dodge swept line. I want a 4-door Dodge swept line. I'm gonna cab swap at that truck. I love those Dodges because they're like the ugliest damn trucks you've ever seen, and nobody's got one. That's what I want to do that truck, but I need to get some of these other things ironed out and hopefully get all the little issues. I've got one transmission fluid leak I need to fix. I've got the part for it. I'm waiting for the tool. I need to put some heater hoses on it. And then that's about it. Anyway, I hope you guys liked the video. Hit the like button, hit the scribble button down there or there, whatever the hell it is. Check out my other videos. And as always, I would really, really appreciate it if you guys shared this video, trying to grow this channel back up as fast as possible. And as always, get out and fix something.